You're listening to the New World to Go podcast with your hosts, Redbyrd and BDLG.
Episode of New World to Go, episode 107. I'm your host, Redbyrd, and with me is BDLG. Bordy, we got some stuff to talk about today. Maybe it's some stuff that's affected us personally, even. There's a lot of server merges and transfers going on. They got back transfer tokens. We're going to talk about that. And, of course, we got patch 3 of the PTR. I assume, and I think you do too, that this is going to be the last iteration of the patch that we get before the February update, or at least I hope so. We're going to talk about that as well on the episode. Thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it. Don't forget to hit the subscription button, the notification bell for more New World content like this. Also, if you're on the podcasting platforms, we love the ratings, man. They help us out a lot. Obviously, we love putting on the New World podcast for you. And, it helps us continue to do so if more and more people find us. So definitely do that. All right, dude, let's hop right in here with, whatever this segment is. Because we've completely abandoned the news, the news and the main topic thing. At this point, it's a trend, right? It's a habit.
Just whatever, man. Let's
this
just
is
do
New
whatever.
World. Yeah, this is the New World to Go podcast. There's no labels. We don't like labels anymore. But anyways, yeah. So basically, patch 3 came out on the PTR. A lot of great changes in this one. This is another thing, that I would like to just point out here. And I know that we point this out on a regular basis, but they do a great job at listening to feedback. And these patch notes is maybe not the first the PTR patch, right, that came out, but definitely as the patches go, 2 and 3 look very good. One of the things, dude, that I'm happy about, because I'm trying to complete New World. Content is sparing right now, dude, and so I'm just like, you know what, I want 200 on everything. So I was very happy to see this. Fishing will take 38% less experience to level, Bordy. This fishing's a grind, bro. It really is, and it's nice to see that they recognize that maybe it's a little bit too grindy.
Yeah, I'm glad to see it too, because I haven't started fishing either. My fishing's at 35. I recently just started it, and then I paused it after I seen this, and I was like, no, I'm not doing it anymore until this goes live, and then I'll go back to fishing a little bit. But yeah, no rush. I'm not in a big rush to get fishing level, but I'm glad to see this come in because it'll definitely help my progression.
Yeah, that's the thing, is everything's on pause right now because we are getting the decreased amount of XP to level up in crafting, and now we're getting the increase or the decrease to experience to level in fishing too. Overall, great changes, I think, because again, a lot of people are the nerf to the crafting especially hit hard, dude. I was leveling engineering before I saw these patch notes and quit. And dude, it's a lot of materials required to level, and I think that's fine to some extent, but just like with leveling, right now for a new player, they've increased the XP gain pretty significantly through the leveling process because of how grindy it feels, and this kind of needed attention too, because again, if you want new players to stick around and try to hit max level, it needs to feel pretty good progression wise. I feel like you're gaining some stuff where before, as we know, that was not the case.
Right. Yeah. These are good changes for sure. I mean, reducing the XP requirement, I think it's fine, and I think they're welcome. I think most players are not gonna balk at those changes or be mad at them.
No, definitely not. Cooking aptitude boxes will take 30% more experience, but that's fine. Everybody was farming cooking boxes anyways.
It was like 80 hearty meals. You got your aptitude every day, and you moved on. So yeah, it's like it is what it is. It's not even going to be that significant, I don't think.
Not only that, but the thing you're putting into the economy really isn't something a lot of people. We don't need 50 billion hearty meals on the market at all times. It's not like refreshing potions that you basically chug all the time. So
no.
So it's good that they made those changes for sure. Mutation orbs take 5 less powerful gemstone dust to craft, dude. what a great change. Again, continuing to get away from that grindiness of the mutation orbs. Another big change, since we're already talking about that, we can kind of discuss these together, Bordy, is mutation orbs can now be purchased every 3 days, instead of every 7, which is a massive increase to the overall availability of these orbs. And, dude, here's the thing, man, is this is just the overall, like, the direction that people want the game to go to. A lot of people don't even want the orb system anymore at this point. But at least they are, pushing in the direction of making these things more available.
Yeah, I've never been a fan of the orb system. I've said it a million times, but this is a good change for sure to make them more available. At the end of the day, man, you're not going to stop players. The players that want to run these things over and over and over are going to run them anyway, right? So the gate that's in place is almost a moot point anyway, because a lot of people are just going to, if players want to do it, they're going to do it, right? Yeah. They're going to buy their orbs. They're going to do whatever they want. So I think if the orbs stay in the game, just make them a little bit more accessible. I mean, if you want to leave them on the faction vendor and charge however much they're charging for them now, are they like 10K tokens or something like that, just to make the faction vendor still continue to be relevant, that's fine. Like, leave them on there. It is what it is. That's fine. But make them available, make them more readily available. So I wouldn't even mind if they made it to where we could buy them like once a day. And then you still have to go get your faction tokens somehow to buy them. So it's still like this grind where I don't think a lot of players would run them as much as maybe they think they would. But I don't know, man. I don't know. I like the change for 3 days. It's good. It's another step in the right direction. So we'll see what the future holds for orbs in like the next 2 to 3 months. It'll be interesting to watch what happens.
Well, to your point, people run these if they want to run them, and the problem currently in the game is that a lot of the wealth is unequally distributed. So then you have these people that are already really rich, and they're the ones that are getting to run the the mutations over and over and over again. And then you have players that have to grind, X amount of time to get to these faction tokens and to get the money enough to pay for an M10 or whatever mutation they're on is pretty crazy, dude. So this is another great way to kind of prevent that, because again, I don't mind, especially the faction vendor, increasing that frequency of which you can buy on there. It keeps PvP missions going, or ways for people to gain those tokens, keeps those viable, the faction vendors viable, and all that. So overall, I think it's a great change. Gypsum orbs can come from level 60 Reek Water and Shattered Mountain quests. This is good, dude, because again, back in the back when we leveled through, a lot of these, you start to get to that point where these quests are giving you gear that you can't even equip. It's like level 58 gear or whatever that you'll never use, even if you're just trying to complete the quests to level. A lot of the times the gear is worse than what you have on. It's just like green gear. So it's good to have viable quest rewards now, and kind of really makes it viable for now. Like, because I haven't really went back and tried to complete all the quests in the game. At least now these will be worthwhile for my time, because I'll be getting gypsum as well.
Yeah, for sure. It's a great thing to add to the questing. I think you just make those orbs more readily available so that people can continue to progress their character. I think is a great thing. The change they had where they made the orbs, like actually crafting the orbs, they took the cooldown away from that. That's quite nice too, because now you can go get your gypsum from all these different sources a day, and then you can just go ahead and craft your orbs and then make your cast for your specific thing. So it is beginning to like head in a better direction for sure. They're starting to remove a little bit of the grind, adding things in that make the progression a little bit smoother, a little bit faster. Same thing with the orbs, same thing with adding these gypsums to the quest. I think all of these are great things. And hopefully they'll continue to push in that direction until eventually we'll be kind of at a really good spot with where progression feels good. I think right now it feels decent in the game, but I think there's a lot that could be improved upon for sure.
Yeah, and I think really the new player experience is what they really have to now turn their head to, because it's hard. We were all leveling together. We all had a massive group of people to run expeditions and these quests with that we needed help with. Some of the quests are group quests. And it feels really bad, especially since, sometimes some of these servers are dead. They're not getting any town board missions, any help with leveling in that category. We got to figure out a way, and we're going to talk more about the server stuff later, but you got to find a way to make this leveling experiences fun again, because now for a new player trying to catch up to their friends, people are stopping at like level 30, level 35 and saying, you know what, it's just not worth it. I'm not feeling any progression at certain points. I remember those dead zones in leveling back when we leveled. Whereas like I had to force myself to level basically because I was kind of not feeling like I was getting anywhere, but I knew, you know, obviously for content purposes, I need to push through. But a lot of people don't have that drive, dude. They're like, okay, well, I'm not going to push through. I'm actually going to not play the game anymore. And they got to figure that out.
Yeah, I've heard some complaints about that too during stream, but overall, I think they are kind of trying to push in that direction. I mean, they added the Vengarian Raiders or Vengarian, however you say them. They added the Raiders to the game and added a new mob type that's lower level so people can go progress through that storyline. Although it's short, I went back and did it not too long ago, and it wasn't too long, but it was neat to go back and revisit it. They've added new mob types to the lower levels, which is cool. They have continued to increase the experience reward from quests. This is like the third or fourth time, I think, something like that. Maybe it's only second, I don't know, but they have done this a couple times now at least, where they've increased the experience for quests like from level 10 to 50. I think they've increased the amount of experience you gain. I do think there's still a little bit of work that needs to be done there. I would love to see like cinematics come into the game, a more intriguing story, things like that help the progression or the leveling experience would be I think would go miles. But I do think based on what people have said, I haven't went back and leveled another character, but based on what I've heard from new players coming to the game, they come into the stream and they say, well, now I'm stuck at level 45 or whatever. What do I do? You know, and it's kind of the same thing where it's like, well, go do your town board quest, go do whatever. And it's kind of the same progression that we followed whenever we were leveling. And so I do agree that things like that do need to be addressed, because once they hit that wall, it's like you hit that wall and then the progression doesn't feel good anymore, because not only are you hitting that wall, now with new players, you don't have a ton of other people to progress with, right? At least whenever we were doing it, there was a rush of players doing it together. And so it just felt like that was just what everybody was doing. You know, now it's like you get stuck. And it's like, well, now what? I got to go grind these town boards by myself or do whatever. And to your point, a lot of the servers, you don't have the option to do that because they're just they don't have enough players on the server to do town board quests. So it is kind of a weird spot, but I do think they have done some work in that area. And I think they'll continue to do so. I think over time it'll get good, just like everything else we talk about, man. It's just kind of a wait and see game at this point.
Well, and that's the thing is as the game goes on and they add more content to the game, I think this is it's going to be an ongoing effort, right?
Yeah.
To try to make sure the new player experience is good and worth people getting through to get to the end game that, you know, we all know is like the main part of an MMO, but you know, it makes the game a lot better when the process or the journey to getting to end game is fun as well. So obviously they continue to work towards that. 50% increased reward increases, or 50% increased reward to quests. We mentioned that. Another great change there to help people level up. Outpost Rush will now reward Umbral Shards, 100 to the winner and 50 to the loser. They're just basically saying that this is already a thing that we've talked about. They're just saying that they've added it to the PTR now, because before that reward was not live yet. It basically wasn't happening when you were doing it in the PTR. So now they are testing that system. But it's always been the change that they're going to make this time. And performing a melee attack will no longer delay you from sprinting. Another great change for melee players. And then reduce the slide momentum that occurs after dodging. This was like one of the biggest complaints that I had seen about the new changes, was how it felt like you were on ice skates when you dodged. And they've tried. I haven't gotten on the PTR patch since this. But I definitely will, because that was one of my main concerns about this patch, is how kind of odd it felt to move, like, you know, to move and dodge and stuff. So hopefully this made that better and improve the changes we already thought were good, which was basically improving the quality of combat with animation canceling and not having to weapon swap to get your dodge to feel good. So hopefully this fixed that issue.
Yeah, I jumped on the PTR for a little while the other day and checked this out after they announced these changes, just to see how the sliding was. And I wanted to see if the dodge canceling actually worked, because before you would do your light attack dodge cancel, you just rolled in place and it didn't consume any stamina. It was very odd. It was very buggy. Now it works. You can in fact dodge cancel, which feels pretty good. I mean, it works pretty well. The whole sliding thing seems to be fixed. There are some weird things though with the different types of armor, and it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, because right now on the PTR, at least to me, it felt like this. I don't know what the general consensus is, but it felt like to me Light armor, you rolled and there's no like stopping animation. It is very smooth. You just keep running. You can still see a kind of a really weird like skating motion whenever you dodge forward. You can tell like you slide a little bit, but what it does, it takes out that hard stop that's on live to prevent you from swapping weapons, or where you have to swap weapons, animation cancel. But it does still feel weird because you dodge and you slide a little bit and you come back. But whenever you dodge backwards and move, there's no longer the ice skating thing. They did fix that and that feels good. But what feels weird to me though is that light armor is like this smooth transition. In medium and heavy, it still feels like there's a bit of a delay there whenever you dodge and then you move forward. So it's going to be interesting to see how that kind of plays out, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing or what. Maybe it's nice to have the extra mobility as a light user. I don't know. Maybe that's just one of the advantages of wearing light armor. I think a lot of people are already wearing light armor on live because it just is, the mobility is so good and the iframes you get from light armor is just easier to hit. But I don't know, man. Overall, it was a huge improvement from last time I played the PTR and then getting on there and testing it now. So felt good, felt okay.
Yeah, that's good to hear. I look forward to changing those or trying those out later. But dude, I'm hoping this patch hits live this week.
Surely it will. It has to, right?
If it's called a February patch, they're running out of days. Because next week, if they plan on launching when they usually launch content, which is like on Tuesday or Wednesdays, it'll be too late then. It'll be then a March patch. And we're all looking forward to seeing what they have to offer in the new dev video, and then obviously in the upcoming content because. Obviously this week we all knew that, or this month, excuse me, we all knew that the game needed a month like this to where they went back and fixed a lot of the things wrong with the current game as opposed to adding new content. But obviously we all are excited to see what they have next as well, which is what brings people back to the game, I think, which is a new weapon, new zone, et cetera, et cetera. All right, dude. Yeah. Well, so the next thing we have to talk about on the podcast is the recent round of server merges and token transfers. Now, this is the both of those things happened, which is odd because they've never done those two things at the same time at once yet, and we all thought it's for good reason, right? Because merging someone and then giving them the option to transfer off immediately, not a great thing, people have a gut reaction to how, as we clearly saw, because people who have a quick gut reaction to who they got merged with and who's controlling that territory or that map at that time, and they're going to transfer off and find a better, what they feel to be a better server, right? Well, as we have well documented on this show, we were on Eden, the biggest NA East, potentially biggest NA server up until that point. We shared the server with a lot of, big name companies. A lot of content creators are also on there. And when this happened, dude, Eden became basically like the server we transferred from to get to Eden. The population dropped insanely low to the point where sometimes we struggle to have 200 people online at once. I mean, basically has killed the server for the most part. There's a few of us left. We're here at the current moment. I know Lamoni here is here as well still. I think I want to say Streamer House is also here, but I'm not sure. I haven't double checked. They might have transferred by now. But anyways, that string of events has led the number one NA server to be dead now. There are bigger servers obviously now population wise, but it just goes to show the impact of these decisions that they're making, Bordy. Not great. Not what I don't think you'd want to see when they basically, and part of the equation, something we haven't said yet, is they did prevent people from transferring to Eden, which could have been a lot of the cause for the exodus, because they felt like maybe Eden's numbers were slipping as is, and it's going to make it even worse now that people can't transfer them with their transfer tokens. That has been revoked now, but during that initial phase, Eden was blocked to transfer. I think it was the only server that was blocked from people to come to, which is another red flag, I think. So here we are, Bordy. We're on a dead server, just like we were when we decided to transfer off. Takamagahara, which is now a different name because it merged into a different server, which now has
Yeah, it's
more
funny.
population than Eden. So it's like, what do you overall, dude? I don't think this is a long-term solution to the game's problems. These token transfers and these server merges, they have to figure out something. I have an idea, but I want you to speak your piece before I go into that rant, okay? So, but
Yeah,
what do you think?
yeah.
What has your experience been with the recent round of and this is the first ever round of transfers and tokens at the same time?
I mean, if I'm speaking bluntly, I think it was terrible, man. I'm not sure, Red. I'm not sure why they gave server transfer tokens and mergers at the same time. It was not a good decision for sure. I don't know why that was even a thought to have happen because as a player, we're sitting here and I can't see the future or anything, and I'm obviously not always right. I'm wrong a lot. But on this particular subject matter, I think even I could have looked and said, guys, it's not a good choice to give transfer tokens and merge servers at the same time, because what's going to happen, you're going to merge servers. Everybody on these servers are going to see the population grow on these other servers. And we already know that whenever you're on a server that's really popping off, there's a lot of people on there, it's so much more fun, right? So then we know what's going to happen. You're going to merge these servers. Everybody's going to see, oh, well, now that's the biggest server. We're all going to transfer over there. And that's exactly what happened. It's exactly what happened. It's exactly what I could have predicted it to a T. So what happened is that Takamagahara, the old server we were on, got merged into O-Run, right? Well, then they merged all these other servers into O-Run recently, I think, and made that server a lot bigger. So it was like, had all these people on there. Then on top of that, they gave server transfer tokens. So everybody on Eden and all these other servers made this mass exodus over to the larger servers so they could PvP and have a good time, get ready for the outpost rush queues that are about to pop over and over and over. It's like, guys, all you really needed to do was merge the servers and don't give server transfer tokens yet. Merge the servers, let it sit for a couple weeks, maybe even a month, and then give server transfer tokens. And then that's it. And then later on, make server transfer tokens paid for all I care. Splitting the player base like this is terrible, man. It's a bad feeling. And right now we're sitting here on a dead server on Eden, and it feels terrible because we're waiting for this big OPR patch to come up. And in my mind, I'm sitting here thinking, bro, if we can't get OPRs to pop on our server for this big OPR patch, what are we going to do, man? Like it feels, it just doesn't feel good. And I think you're right when you say this isn't this cannot be a long-term solution for the game. It can't be. Like having these servers split like this, having them all over the map like this is just, it's not good. And I don't know what will happen. Like at some point, the server population will stable off, right? Like at some point, I think this wouldn't be as big of an issue, but it still feels bad to have things split like this in 2022. You know what I mean? Like in the beginning of the game, it was like, oh, this is kind of cool. You get like this small group of people you can play with all the time, which is kind of neat because you get this community feel on your servers, there is some merit to that. And I think we've experienced that on both Takamagahara and on Eden. We've experienced kind of this really tight kind of community feel, which is very cool. But for the overall health of the game, it's not great because people, at the end of the day, it's an MMO. People want to be on a server where there's a lot of other people playing, right?
Well, the game doesn't function without that. You know what I mean? It literally doesn't.
It does not function without that. And so now we're in this really weird spot again, Red. Like, what do they do moving forward and how do they fix their server issue? I don't know that there's a short-term solution. I'm not a dev. I have no idea how much work goes into that. I can imagine it's a massive undertaking to redo like this whole framework of what they have for the servers going on. But one of the things I have thought about, to answer your question directly now, is channels like Lost Ark, maybe. But then if you do channels like Lost Ark where people can switch freely between channels, how do you then navigate the war and territory control system, which in my opinion, I'm a huge advocate of just redoing that entire system. I think it's awful right now, if I'm being perfectly honest and blunt. I don't think it works good. I don't think territory control, that's a whole other subject though. We won't go into that. But I just don't think territory control works great right now for the game. I think it's a good idea on paper, great idea on paper. But for the overall population and health of the game, you're excluding a large mass of your player base. I enjoy wars very much. I don't enjoy the overall process of declaring them. I don't enjoy the overall process of excluding 90% of your player base because they can't participate in wars. There's a lot of things wrong with that system. And then if you did some sort of channel system there, who would own what territory? How would you even incorporate that in? Dude, I don't know. So to be honest, I have no idea what the answer is for their problem. I do think cross-server OPR, adding Dungeon Finder in and having cross-server Dungeon Finder would be big for the game. Both of those would be really big, and I think that would help tremendously in a lot of different areas. And maybe that would be the solution, and then the territory control and whatever could just stay server specific, obviously, and maybe that would help. I don't know, man. What's your take?
Well, I've got it figured out, dude. I happen to be I happen to be a game developer from this chair that I sit in. I have a lot of great ideas. Yes, exactly.
Okay.
But on all seriousness, I think they got to look at a system. ESO does it, and Lost Ark kind of does it, I guess. They still have their own server, things, but ESO does it, I think, pretty well because they have the super servers, right? They just have sharding and stuff. Well, we need to look at Lost or New World, excuse me, and figure out a way to make it to where not only everybody that's playing the game has access to play together across the many servers. There's got to be, it can be a channel thing where you just select, like, maybe Eden becomes a channel and Valhalla becomes a channel, or Oran, et cetera, et cetera. They're all channels now, and you can hop back and forth with your character from thing to thing. They just having some sort of, and someone in my stream thought of this idea, and I thought it was really, really good. It was like, when you hear a good idea when it's like, well, why aren't they doing this exactly? And that's war, war sickness. Just make it to where, like, one character can do one war every 24 hours or even more. Like, make it 48 hours, because you can't technically have a war back-to-back days, right? There's like a cooldown or whatever. You can put a cooldown if there isn't one already. And that will prevent companies, not only will that prevent companies from owning the same territory or more than one territory, which is like a bad part of the game. They should not be able to do that ever. I know that initially it was like, they should say it should be really hard to do that. No, it should be impossible, if we're being honest. They should not be able, they should not be able to, own two territories. They should not be in shell companies where they can own all of these other territories because they can spread out the war, the war windows and everything like that. But the game has, it's been clear that that's the way that a lot of these bigger guilds operate, is they have shell companies. They spread out their siege windows. That way they can own multiple territories at once. I think war sickness gets rid of that, right? Because then this character cannot compete in another war in the next amount of time. And it should be longer than 24 hours to prevent the shell companies from being effective. And that way people can push these territories and cause that to be a problem for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think war fatigue is something that is valid for sure. But the problem, I think, is, okay, so you add war fatigue. Well, then you have these channels on this massive server. Well, then how do you have the war system that's currently in place if you have some kind of big massive server like that, right? Does each channel just have their own thing and your characters lock that channel for war purposes, but you can switch between PvE and other purposes?
Your character across all the servers would have a cooldown saying, like, I cannot do a war in this amount of time now. I've defended my territory and I can't compete in a war or whatever at this point. So
then you have just one map that is like,
there would be multiple maps. So there would be multiple maps. And then you could pick with you could pick with your company, be like, yo, on the Eden, like, shard, let's push this territory. You know what I mean? And all the territories across the different shards are owned by different people, and you have access as a player to all the shards. So that then, to the second point, would make it more possible for territory. Like, okay, so for instance, on Eden, there's no way we're getting a territory initially, right? We're just not. Our group is a more community focused group. We just don't have the manpower or skill or progression to push a territory on Eden. Like, a lot of big boys own territory, right? But then that would allow us to find a shard that we could still compete on. Without having to worry about, these mergers and these transfer tokens, which is the main another big problem. Because a lot of people probably came to Eden and were deciding, like, oh, well, we've progressed enough to where we want to own a territory. We can't on Eden, but now here's this transfer token. Let's use it and try to find a place where we can own territory, right? So I think that fixes a lot of issues with how the game is right now, because like you said, the game for sure needs cross-server activity in OPR. It for sure needs it in dungeons, because a lot of those smaller territory, even now, like obviously we're a small server now. We can't get into mutations right now to buy them.
Yeah, it's brutal. Yeah.
Because
you got to form your own group for sure. But yeah, I mean, something like that might work, dude. I don't know. I see maybe some issues coming up whenever you're trying to push territory. I think there could be like some deals struck or something with some other companies from cross server to come help this company push a territory or whatever. And I think that could get a little bit hairy as well.
Yeah, but that's already a thing. It's already just smaller, thing, right?
You could have people paying like these huge, large companies that have all these shell companies. I could see them paying them to come over to their channel to do like, let's just push this into war for us. They may not be able to participate in the war, or they may still be able to stagger their war window or something, because you can still go defend your territory even if you can't participate in a war. These large companies have the numbers to go defend their territory on whatever server they're on, so that it would never get pushed into war. Then they could just get paid to go do all this other stuff. I don't know, man. I think that would be better than what we have in place now, for sure. I think it'd be fine, but I think I still don't know that solves the underlying issue of excluding a large part of the player base from participating in wars. I think it would help. And I think more people would be able to participate, because like you said, you go find these smaller servers potentially to or smaller channels or whatever to own territory. But then is it even that fruitful to own territory on those channels? Like, is it even, you could say you own it, but what, you may just be sinking a whole bunch of money in there and no return. Well,
that's another problem that would probably be solved by the freaking, or by like, right now we know that a lot of people that on the larger servers that own Windsward and Everfall are playing a different game than the rest of us. They're literally embezzling the money into the trading post so that they have, so that they can collect more than gold cap all the time. Like, that's the game they're playing. Yeah. Whereas a lot of us are fighting to, make enough money to do our cooldown mats or whatever. It's kind of, that's another thing that they need to figure out, the tax system and how it's distributed. The money's distributed anyways. Maybe it's just like every shard, like the Everfall users get a split of this much, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know. I obviously am just throwing out ideas. I obviously don't know how all these would work on paper, but I feel like a lot of these are solutions that we need to look at or need to be looked at, because right now, this server thing, the in-game thing, it's just, they contradict themselves, right? Because without population, you cannot do a lot of the activities that's in-game, right? And without the in-game activities, you can't progress. We are seeing it right now, that towns are dying now. And so basically, the homes the towns that I've invested money in with my big houses, because they were big hubs when we were on a big server, and to where I've spent 15,000 on a house or whatever. They're being degraded now to where I can't do my crafting there anymore. So now, now I got to move houses, which I lose 15K because you can't sell a house, and I can't do my crafting in one location, which then kind of brings up the storage issue. Like, this inventory management's not
just
great.
Toxic.
Yeah, it's just an ongoing thing where like I can definitely empathize with people that are not playing the game right now, because it's like it just feels bad across the board. Like, there really isn't.
It does. I can't blame anyone either, which sucks, because I do think this game still has a massive amount of potential, and obviously we're going to be here for the duration. But it's just like,
we love the game.
Blame somebody.
This is episode 107. I mean, good lord, we like the game, guys. In case you didn't know, we've enjoyed the game. The thing about it is like it doesn't mean it's always easy. It's like marriage, Bordy. Marriage isn't always easy, but it's worth fighting for. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just trying to fight for it, dude. I'm trying to fight for New World right now by throwing out ideas that probably are extremely difficult to execute on paper. But the thing is we need. I think something needs to be done long term. I guess this is a long way to say that, which is basically restate the thing that I said at the beginning of the conversation. Is something more long term needs to be done with the game. Because this can't go on. This whole like, okay, well, this month I'm going to transfer servers. This month I'm getting merged. And then next month I'm going to transfer servers again. It's just, as a leader of a company, we this is not good for us. Me and BDLG, pulling people from server to server is hard. And
Yes,
we
it
both
is.
run a company, and it's tough to do that. And if that's part of the gameplay loop, which it seems to be right now, we're 4 months in, and we've already had to transfer once, and we're eyeing down or staring down the barrel of having to possibly transfer again if Eden dies, or waiting for a merge, which is the next option. Then it's like, this is not great. This is affecting. Not only are we like struggling with other issues in the game, but this is a big one that keeps coming up again, is server transfers. And that's kind of like, that's a weird mechanic for a game.
Yeah, it feels bad. I mean, having to transfer servers every 2 months just so you can actually play the game is not good gameplay. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of kind of overarching, very large issues that I don't know that could have been even predicted whenever the game was out. I think on paper, some of these things look really, really good, but then in practice, some of this stuff's not working. So now, in my mind, it's time to pivot and figure out a new solution. If they truly want New World to be this long-term, 10-year game that they keep saying or have this vision for, man, right now some of these things just are not, they're flat out not working. Territory control is one of the big ones to me. I know it may be an unpopular opinion for a lot of the hardcore people that are playing the game. I love wars. I like fighting in them. I think there should be some kind of like hardcore activity, but what we have to understand is that maybe the hardcore activity for us needs to be some kind of competitive ladder or something to crawl. Like, the wars are not good for the overall health of the game. I have heard it a million times, people coming into the stream saying, hey man, I love the game, but I'm never going to be able to participate in the in-game content. I play 3 hours a night, but I still can't get into wars. Like, I'm not going to be able to participate in this stuff, and it feels real bad because I sign up for them. My company can't get in them. Like, it just feels bad, man. It really does. And it's like, some people could say, well, cry more because these are meant to be in-game content, like join a company or get good. I don't think it's a matter of getting good. Now it's a matter of politics, right? Like, either you know people to get into wars or you don't. Either you're in a big company, you get into the wars, and then even then they could exclude you if you don't meet the standards, which is understandable because it's war. You want to make sure you have your best players in there. And I don't know what the solution is, but the other side of the coin too is that the gap just continues to grow larger and larger and larger between these people that can just do all the content all the time and the people that can't, which it may not be as big of a deal as we see it being in terms of the market or whatever, but it is a big deal in player perception because players see these things, and I hear it every day from people coming to the stream every day. Players see these things, they get very disheartened about, like, I'm never going to be able to compete. I'm never going to be able to participate in the stuff in this game. I'm never going to be able to do X, Y, and Z in this game. So why am I playing this game, right? And that is a bad feeling. I've quit games personally because of that feeling before, and I see it happening in New World. I have seen it happening in New World for a very long time, and it's like that has to get addressed, man, or players are going to bleed out. It's like just one of those overarching things. It was very, very cool on paper, and in practice, to me, it's just not working out very well.
Yeah, and I think part of it is an MMO problem, maybe. MMO is a genre that isn't as friendly to this more casual people, like as if, as like a League of Legends or whatever. So I log on and I can grind a couple ladder matches, and there's no progression other than my like skill level, right? And MMOs always have that weird, not weird, but they have that extra category of actual like game progression, right? That never stops and that you can continue to do. But I do think it would feel much, much better if there was an alternative way to progress in PvP. Because right now it's wars and that's it. And you're 100% correct. Outpost Rush is, again, you may not even, depending on what server you're on, you can't even get into Outpost Rush. The queue is, 40 people at a given time queuing for a PvP activity like that isn't, necessarily everybody's jam. Is challenging, especially if it's server to server basis. That's why I do think, potentially moving that to, a more across server activity and getting those competitive arena type of experience that you're talking about in the game might help people that are into PvP feel more in tune to New World, right? Because you make a good point. Right now they're bleeding people that maybe feel like they never can compete in those things. And the thing is, we had that same discussion with our company before we transferred to Eden. We're like, we're not, we're going to Eden. We're probably not going to be able to compete for territory for a while. if ever, if we go over here. And a lot of people, that concerned a lot of people, because on Takamagahara, yeah, we were getting in wars, but the war, they were able to participate in invasions every time because we owned a territory. But the thing is like, well, you only have 30 people show up to a 50-person invasion. Or this week on Eden, after the Exodus, we participated in a war that the defending side only had 10 people in it. So it was 50. It was 50 v 10.
Yeah.
And so it's like,
that's not good in-game content. You know what I mean? Like that's not what you fight for. I don't know, man. There's a lot of overarching issues. We could probably sit here and debate them forever. And I'm not a proponent. Just to be clear, though, I'm not a proponent of saying like if you play the game 2,000 hours and somebody else has played the game 100 hours, they should be on equal footing as you. Absolutely not.
No. In
MMOs, you should be rewarded for your work put into the MMO, and you should have a level of advantage over someone for sure. But whenever you come into the game and you feel like you literally cannot compete on any level whatsoever, which a lot of people feel that way in New World right now, you cannot come in. That is what I'm talking about. That's a bad feeling. If you feel like you can't ever catch up, it's one thing. Like, I don't have time to play all these hours, but I can at least play my time slot during the night, and I can still enjoy the content this game has to provide. And I still feel like if I play this game for 6 months, in 6 months time, I will be able to compete on that stage. But right now it's dude, that's not the case in New World at all. You can play the game for 2 years and still not ever get to participate in any of the content just because of the way it's set up. And and players are realizing that. They're understanding that. And unfortunately, they're leaving because of that. And it sucks.
Well, no, but I think the problem is when MMOs this is the thing about the genre as well. Is like you if you're a casual player, you really only have time to play, one, maybe to a level of that's high enough to allow you to compete in like maybe mythic rating or PvP arena. Like if you want to scale a ladder, you're probably just going to play that one MMO and try to scale that ladder, right? Or try to compete in the rating in that thing, especially when there's new content, right? But the thing is like, people do make that measurement across MMOs. Is as unfair as it is, because obviously New World's new. They are looking at their time. Time is their most valuable asset in most gamers. Is like, what am I going to spend my time on? Is it a game that I'll never, most likely will never be able to do the in-game content? Or is it like, oh, well, if I do play 3 hours a day over here, I can be in this mythic build company or this mythic rating company that we can complete the highest level content in and get the highest level gear and be part of something, that's definitely something people weigh across the board, and that's something New World, it's young and they have time to figure it out, but it is something they have to figure out across the line eventually, because right now, like you said, it's not in a great place.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, I think we've ranted enough. We try to minimize the amount of episodes we have like this, but I think it's honestly it's due. We above all we value your guys's listen and we value your guys's patronage and support. And I don't know, we don't feel right if we're not being honest with you guys, and this is kind of honestly how we feel right now. Pretty frustrated to be on Eden and in a week's time now be on basically what would be considered a dead server. And what it feels like, because this is the second time we've been on a dead server, and how bad it affects the game. And
it's brutal.
Wanted to share that, I guess, or whatever you want to call this was. Maybe talk at you guys.
A rant session. Get it off our chest.
Yeah. That's what my family, Southern family says. Talk at you. I want to talk.
Talk at you.
Yeah.
I hear that sometimes too.
All right, guys. Well, that's about does it for the main topic. Let's hop over to the company of the week. All right, Bordy, take it away.
Yeah, so this is an NA East company. I don't know if this server is still accurate or not because of the recent merger. So I'm not sure if they've updated or not. But it is an NA East company called Danger Noodles. They are a Marauder faction company, size 26 to 50. They are current, or well, I guess Oops, sorry, I just clicked on the wrong thing. Looks like they're trying to recruit, trying to fill up the company. It says anyone is welcome to join the Discord and hang out, but all company members must be somewhat active in game. For activity requirements, they ask that you play with us at least once a week. So it says they're an adult gaming atmosphere, 18 plus only. It says no high school attitude allowed. Democratic leadership, all members vote on company decisions. Boosting events, they work as a team to raise company member skills to 200. And then PvP and PvE, and then it says you'll just like a casual gaming environment. So if this interests you, then go check them out. They're called Danger Noodles. Sounds like a pretty good group to be a part of, especially if you want your voice heard in companies. A lot of companies aren't ran that way. They want all their members to have a say in what they do. So if you like that, if that suits your fancy, and go check them out. Danger Noodles.
All right. Thank you, Danger Noodles. And for all of our Patreons, you'll see your name after the podcasting video. Again, guys, we appreciate you listening to us and appreciate, you guys continuing to support us through the length of New World. So thank you guys very much. We will be back next episode with a special guest we look forward to announcing soon. Yeah, we'll have another guest and it's a new one. It'll be first time on the podcast, so that's exciting as well. So hopefully you guys tune in for that. We will see you then on another episode of New World to Go.